past school years, we opened up our manufacturing lab. And it has been fabulous. We're have a lot of other businesses and other schools have come in to see what's going on with it, but it does produce a lot of our kids with skills that they need to have to go on to the next level. They might not even get a certification, or they may choose not to even pursue that, but they've gained some skills they can take when they look at the workforce. One of the things we've done with this is had a partnership with Tri-County Tech, and they've created another pathway in itself for a certificate. So if our students as seniors are involved in this program, and they can take a class at Tri-County in their senior year in the fall and one in the spring, and then they'll do an internship class in the summer, they will finish with a certificate of manufacturing that they can take to any manufacturing business. And that's a heads up for them. We're excited about it, and we know that it's going to continue to blow up. But the one purpose we started with way back was simply to have more exposure for our kids.
There are a lot of those jobs open now.
There really are.
Open, yeah.
And we love our career center, but we can only send so many because we share that with 3 other high schools. And now we just made that available for many of our students that may not even, for whatever reason, choose to go to the career center. So we're very excited, very pleased with it. Another program we touched on a little bit last year, but we're really going to try to blow up this year, is our teacher cadet program. We've had teacher cadets for a long time. It's a program that really focuses on exposure for some of our folks to learn what the teaching profession may be like. But with the teacher shortage across the country, and especially our state, we knew we'd got to do something different. And I believe strongly that if we can encourage our own students to be teachers, there's a great chance of them coming back to roost here in our district, and that's the reason why we felt we need to do this. So we've not only kept our teacher cadet program intact, but we've added an introduction to teaching for 9th and 10th graders. So now we're grabbing them even earlier to hopefully encourage, expose, provide some interest in what the teaching profession is all about. One of the things we've also done is we've got a partnership now we've had it with Erskine College as far as getting credit for the teacher cadet, but now we've also added on the Citadel, where they can get another 3 hours for psychology, so they can graduate with 6 hours of credit towards a teaching position. And I think it's just another area we're trying to help them experience so that they'll do well if they go into that teaching profession. We're putting a lot of resources into the classroom, so make it very attractive. We try to put value back in the teaching profession for people exploring whether that's the next step. Very excited about that. A couple of years ago, in fact, when I came here, we had one ag ed teacher, and his classes were extremely full. And now we're at the point we actually have 3 ag ed teachers in the high school and 2 in the middle school. Why? We believe strongly there's skills that these students can gain from this area that will still allow them to either go into the workforce or take the next step in college, and we're being improved correctly. Our students are some of them it's a kind of a crossover into that manufacturing class, which it's machinery. It's working with a lot of machine technology, and I think we're able to hold hands between ag ed and manufacturing. But it's also a chance for our kids to, we're a rural community. Why not have some more exposure for what we're doing here? We have the largest chapter of FFA in the state, and we're pretty proud of what's going on with that program. One of those programs that you feel like it's maybe didn't get as much attention as it should have is we've in the past several years, maybe up to 10 years, have had outsourced our custodial services. It was a cost-saving measure, and it did save us money, but one of the things that our teachers, our students, and even our parents value most is coming to a school that they feel it's attractive, it looks good, and they want it to be something they value. And so we decided last year to kind of add our own day porters, but even this year going forward to bring in all our custodial services hired by our district. And it's been a great plus this summer because one of the things we tried to do is we we hired our own high school students to be part of this summer crew, and it's been an incredible success. Our schools will look fabulous before the school year starts, and a lot of that's attributed to some of our high school students. Again, they use the word skills, gaining some skills, whether it's using wax machines or buffers or whatever else, just to allow them to get a work experience as they're still even in high school. So very pleased with that program. One grant that we were very proud of that we received started last year is Project Aware. There's only 3 districts in the state that are part of this grant, Sumter and Florence won. And it is a mental health grant. The whole grant, I think, was around $6 million for about 5 years. But what it does is provide more mental health services to our students. And I think anyone that's paying attention to what's going on across the country realizes this is an area that we have to address. Our students are coming with greater needs than ever before, and I feel that this is a program that's going to serve us well. So what it does is provides some mental health assistance as far as more staffing. So we've had 2 mental health counselors, and now we're going to be gaining one, hopefully for every school in our district. That's a plus because the need is great. It'll also provide more resources so that when our students or parents want to be able to communicate with a psychologist or someone that's not here or accessible where they have to take off work, well, they can come to our schools, sit down with a screen or a computer and have that conversation with them without having to interfere with their schedule or travel. And it's one of the pluses we have. That mental health grant does include a piece on family engagement, keeping our family more engaged in school and letting them know what the services are that are available. Sometimes that's simply the biggest problem we face is our families don't always know what they have access to. It's a 5-year grant, and so we just kind of got in the beginning stages last year. This
Is it
year,
well received by the parents and students? And
they're very excited about it. They're waiting to see what happens. I mean, it's taken us a little while because we have to work with the Department of Mental Health, but we already will have 2 additional counselors starting this school year. Hope to have 3 even. So that's a piece of it. But we've been putting out bits of information on what it's going to provide, but they're starting to see, and they're very encouraged that no one said this is not the right thing. This is definitely something we needed to be doing. E-learning. We are one of, I think, 10 more schools that are going to be part of the e-learning pilot where we can use that as in place of a snow day. Now we have a lot of work to do and what's the appropriate way so we're not just providing busy work, so it's not more of a strain or hassle for some of our parents and even their students. So we want to be a productive day. We believe strongly that our students can receive the best instruction if they're here in school. So if it's a day that's going to be made up before our testing time where we can provide full day instruction, that probably is best. But if it's taking place of a day that comes at the end of the year, why not provide some of that upfront instruction? Now we also know kids, when it's a snow day, they like snow. We understand that, we get that. But it's something we will explore. We're excited that we're one of the pilot school districts that'll be using it. We have access to it because we're a one-to-one district across the board. Does that mean all our students will be taking them home? Not necessarily.
you explain one-to-one district to people who don't know.
We have a one device per each child all the way through our district with the Chromebooks. But it's not just a device, it's having the technology and the ability to continue to work even when you're not here, which I think that's where we're all going to. One of the things that was announced in the end of the year through the Anderson Independent Star Awards is we had several. We usually have 1 or 2 that make it into the runner-up or winner in several areas, but this year we had the CATE, Career and Technology winner, we had the art runner-up, we had the athletics winner, we had a social studies winner, we had the science runner-up, and we had the overall winner all from BHP. What a neat little honor. So we were very tickled to have that in place, and we'll be recognizing those students as we go through this year. Those are students that just finished their junior year, and now we'll recognize them as they go forward, though. Some of the projects that we have started doing and will be doing throughout this year. One of them, we're excited. We're working with Duke Energy, and we're in the still beginning stages of putting a solar panel farm out here by our high school. This is one to show that we are trying to do our part in going green, conserving as much energy as it can. The solar panel farm probably will provide maybe about 50% of the energy consumed by our BHP high school. It will also provide an educational tool for all of our schools to come and watch how that energy is collected through sun power, and I think it provides a great resource for us, and it's a good message to our community that that's what we want to do. So it's not going to cost us anything else, but it's something that we're hopefully we'll be doing with the Duke Energy, though. Some of the other projects we have going forward. Several of our schools are old. I think I had shared before that a couple of years ago we celebrated the 50th birthday of our newest school. And that means a lot of our schools are pretty old, but they're all very solid buildings. That we have no need to build a new school, so we occasionally will add on maybe a wing or some other areas. But what we do find is some of our areas when these schools were built are small, and one of them would be like a kitchen. It was built to handle a certain number of population. Well, over the years, as we've expanded that school in classrooms and wings, we haven't expanded the kitchen. So one in particular, Belton Middle School, has a very cramped area, and we're trying to enlarge that area so we don't have students waiting outside in the hallways for lines, and that we can serve more students more efficiently and bring some of our equipment up to date. So very excited about that. It's we'd hope to have that in place this summer, but we'll explore more this year, and hopefully next summer will be where we can actually have the finishing touches for it. Another area, again, as we add wings or continue to expand, is sometimes we don't always create enough restroom spaces so one of our schools, Marshall Primary, we're going to try to add those group restrooms where you can take your whole class there, as opposed to they do have individual restrooms in their classroom, but that takes time when you come in recess. So our goal is to always value the instructional time and having one more set of group restrooms. So we'll do some changes around Marshall Primary, and we think that'll make a difference. One of the things we're seeing across the board is these turf fields going up for athletics. But our playgrounds sometimes need some addressing too, and we have a playground at Honeypath Elementary that simply cannot grow grass, and that means it's a dirt area, and if it's any kind of moisture at all, that means it's mud, and that's kind of frustrating. We're trying to keep our schools clean. So this year, actually this summer, we have completed putting a turf playground out in place for these kids, and so they haven't seen it yet, but we know when they come back they're going to be thrilled, because that is a year-round playground, regardless of the weather. If they can get out there and enjoy that, and I think that'll serve them for many years to come. I want to share a little bit about some of our scores, things we did. We're very pleased with a couple of our classes, AP classes. We've really jumped up. We're averaging around 65% of our kids in AP Biology that are not only taking the class, but are passing that, using that for credit to go on. And this year I think we hit a high, 69.2 for AP Calculus. Almost 70% of our kids taking that class receive the credit for it, and we'll be able to use that in the future. So that one's exciting for us to use, to brag about. And our numbers aren't as high in some of these other areas, but the important thing is we're offering more and more AP classes. I think we were up to around 9 AP classes available for our students, and that just means more opportunity for them to take college level work. We're excited. We think that makes a difference. It prepares them when they go to college, whether they've got the credit or not. They're in better shape because they've worked at a college level pace. And one other thing that I really want to address too is we do keep track of a college freshman report. This is our high school students that left the year before. How did they do in the year after they left? Where are they? And sometimes that takes a little bit of tracking work, but this is something, information we provide for the state. And out of the 4 areas, whether they went to a 4-year school, a 2-year technical school, gainful employment, they're working a full-time job, or they went to the military, and those areas we want to look at. 5 years ago, we had about 70% of our students that were in those 4 areas, which that means 30%. What's going on? The last 3 years, we've averaged 93, 95% of our students. And I think this past year is 94.7. We're the second highest in the county, of our high schools with the number of kids that we can say are qualified in those areas that are out there being productive. And I think that's important to us. The other area then that falls under that report that I think is just as powerful is how do our students do when they go to college? You can say a lot of students go to college, but do they perform? Are they successful? And we had 92.3% of our freshmen pass their classes, all their classes they took on whatever the class. I think these would be just limited core classes, but 92.3, that is the 3rd highest in the county. Very pleased. That means our kids are taking it serious and moving forward. And go to college, if you don't pass your classes, you're not going to be successful too. We had a very great year as far as safety goes. We're very pleased. I think it's always on us, what do we need to do next? But we've added, we have an SRO officer in every school except for one, and they're shared. That school shared with. It's also located about maybe a block or 2 from the police department. So we're confident that we've put people in the right spot to not only provide that safety and protection, but also provide a perception that they're there. It's when you see a police car parked out inside of the school, that's already a deterrent. And these folks are doing a super job. They're not only just serving as a protection, but they provide other resources in the school, training for our staff. They spend most of their time building a relationship with students, and I think that's incredible. When you have a police officer starts at a school and the first 2 kids come up and say, I remember you arrested my dad. That's not the perception we want. We want the perception that these guys are here to be our friends, be here to make a difference in our life, and we're making that powerful statement. We've also continue and will continue to add cameras. Now, cameras itself do not provide a safety feature, but they do provide us to send a deterrent and also help us solve things and be able to do our investigation a little bit more efficient than we've ever been before. I think we finished putting up our fencing program up there. Our buildings continue to be very secure as far as directing traffic to come in certain areas. One of the things that we like to do is provide drills where we bring in undercover resource officers, and they try to see if they can get into the schools. And we find out we're pretty successful in that. Because you don't want that situation where someone's left a stone in the door letting some people in. That's not taking place anymore. We feel that they keep it secure. But 2, after they cannot get in, or if they do, we let them inside and see how long it takes for us to make sure that they're escorted out or addressed because they're not wearing a badge, they're not wearing any kind of recognition. And that's another powerful thing, because we don't always know. We don't want to just make that assumption that people walk around school are supposed to be in the school. And we feel like we've done a great job with that, and I think that's a good feeling for our staff and for our parents. BHP Anderson 2 continues to excel in athletics. We are Bear Nation. We're very proud of our kids involved in what the feats they accomplish and how they're recognized out and abroad. But I think the most important part of our athletic piece is the number of students that are involved in our program. And I think at one time I heard there might have been 600 students out of the high school that are involved in some form of athletics. what that means is they're participating, and usually you can identify those students involved in athletics with those students being successful in other areas of their school. I think that usually holds true, and we're just very pleased that our students feel like that's a place they want to excel, that's a place they want to make their friends and connections, and that's a place that they feel they can use their talents the best.
What about other extracurricular activities that your students are involved in?
I think the one thing we want to continue push is there's always a program for someone else. Whether it's our band program, the band numbers continue to grow, our vocal music, I mentioned our ag ed program that just continues to blossom. ROTC is another program that they may not have a click somewhere else, but they can find leadership and some relationships built in our ROTC program. So it's not a one program. I don't want our district to be known as this is a one-shot district that they can focus on, whether it's athletics. We have many programs that continue to serve our kids, whichever background they come from, will serve them best. So.
We talked about it a little bit earlier. Talk about the role of the Career Center and how important that is to the district.
Well, we're very excited, one, for the Career Center that's going up in Anderson District 3, 4, and 5. I think that there's just another part of that population. I think we mentioned earlier that the manufacturing jobs that are out there, we've got to have more people. But we'll always continue to brag on the one we have that serves Anderson 1 and 2. It's a fabulous Career Center. We have a great relationship with them. If I had a one area that it's, are we always getting the right kids there? Are we getting the kids that will benefit the most? And the answer is yes. And to see a couple of students this past year that maybe earlier on in the career didn't have that direction, probably were not going to choose even going to the Career Center, weren't even comfortable with that process, and we kind of forced them into it. Here's something that's available to them, and 3, 4 years later to watch them come back from with trophies in their hands from going to places like New York City where they won and saying, this made a difference in their life. That's what it's about. Hopefully some kind of exposure, some kind of direction, because that's our job, is to let people know where resources are, and the Career Center is a valuable resource to our students in our community.
And you've worked closely with Anderson County's economic development to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of what y'all are providing job-wise.
Right. That's, we can sit there and say we're producing kids and they're doing well and their scores and their grades and stuff, but if they're not turning around and reinvesting that in Anderson County and Anderson 2, or even our state, then I'm not sure we've done ourselves a service. We've got to make sure that we're being strategic as far as pushing our kids in the right direction so that they can be successful. Manufacturing's a piece of it. I mentioned our teacher cadet. Another one was going to be the computer science area, the coding that's exploding across the country, the state, that we need more of our students. That's what the jobs are demanding, and we probably need to up that one just a little bit as well too, because they're demanding the workforce, and or we're probably have not pushed that one as much as we have in the past, and we need to, because that's where jobs are being created right now. This is Anderson School District 2. We have 7 schools, 1 high school, Belton Honeypath High School, that is formed from our entire community. We have 2 middle schools that each serve a community, Belton Middle School and from Belton Community, and Honeypath Middle School from their community. And then we have 4 elementary or primary schools, Marshall Primary, which serves kindergarten through 2nd grade, and Belton Elementary, 3rd through 5th grade in Belton. And we have Honeypath Elementary, serves kindergarten through 5th grade in Honeypath. And then another school, Wright Elementary, is a very rural school, but all of them again come together to form Belton Honeypath High School. We do also serve a 4K program through the CDERP program, CDERP, and that we have about 100 students that qualify, that participate in, and that's students we're grabbing that hopefully they give them a kind of a head start before their career starts in kindergarten, and I think that serves us well. We are mostly a rural community, very supportive, we are struggling a little bit with businesses. We do not have we used to be more of the mill businesses here in our community, and they're no longer in service. So we're kind of having to reach out across the county to be part of some of the other expansions that are going on, and that's okay. We are the furthest district away from the I-85 corridor, which sometimes hurts us, but it also provides for a great place to live without as much traffic, without the noise, pollution that some other areas may face. But the challenge is always, do we provide enough job opportunities for our students in this area? And sometimes we have to rethink where we're going with it, though.
And I'm assuming you use technology to keep in touch with parents and students. So what's the best place for people to find out the most up-to-date information or the best information about your district?
Well, we do try to keep our website current. I try to provide a message weekly on it, just some information that may be helpful to our parents, or information that just kind of gives them an idea of what's going on recently in school. But we've also, and I think this year we're going to even do a better job of trying to push out more and more information. Parents just simply, it's easy to track on social media what's happening now. The question is, which way do they track? Is it through Snapchat? Is it through Twitter or Facebook? And there are many others, and so that's something that's above my level. But we're figuring that out, and we're trying, because we don't want to just stay to one platform. We know that different people choose to do, and a lot of people still want that email connection, and we always want to provide that. We still use our mass call out if we need to. But it's so much more convenient, it seems like now, for people to be able to pull out their phone, and when there's a message or there's information or there's an announcement, and have that readily available. So I think that's one thing we're kind of more leaning to this year, is trying to push out as much as possible, because it doesn't take away from what people are doing. It just lets them see, hey, this is taking place at my kid's school.
And if people want to meet in person with teachers or with you in the district office, are y'all accessible for people?
Well, I think it's not only accessible, we want our folks to come up. We want when we do our surveys at the end of the year, it's one of the things that we always know we can improve on is that parent-teacher, parent-school relationship. And the best way to do that is make sure our parents have access to our schools on a regular basis, not just for night events, not just for celebrations, but to see truly what's going on in the classroom, and truly what's happening with their students at school. The worst thing a parent can do is say, well, I'm going to become less involved with my child in school because my child wants me to be less involved. No, there's a need and a demand. The more parents stay involved with the schools, the more successful our kids will be.